Welcome to the IDF Podcast. This podcast is a service of the Immune Deficiency Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the diagnosis, treatment, and quality of life of those living with primary immunodeficiency. On this episode of the IDF Podcast, Karen Rohr, IDF's Communications Manager for Population Health, and myself, Zach Moore, IDF's Communications Manager for Digital Media, are joined by popular Twitch and YouTube personality CDogVA, or Connor. Connor won a Streamer Award last year for Best Philanthropic Event, wherein he streamed himself cycling across Japan in an effort to raise money for IDF. During his second cyclothon in March, Connor was able to raise more than $500,000 for IDF. On June 29th, Connor will once again be using his platform to help our mission, this time hosting an in-person auction in Los Angeles with the help of some friends. We took this opportunity to speak with Connor about his background, his career, and what led him to explore philanthropy in the world of content creation. Let's get started.
Yeah, I grew up in Wales, which is a small country within the United Kingdom. I grew up in kind of a pretty small town that doesn't have much to do, but I was always obsessed with video games, so that was kind of my escape from that. But yeah, I basically grew up around nature a bunch, and I was always doing activities and always doing sports. And to my parents' dismay, I was always playing video games as well.
I can understand that because I have a child that plays video games. I think entirely too much, but that's
I,
okay.
I told them it was an investment. I said, listen, let me play video games. I'll figure something out.
That's fabulous. They were very patient. So tell me, speaking of video games, tell me, when did you start playing? What did you start playing?
Yeah,
what were some of the early games that you played? Were they online games or just sort of?
When I grew up, it was kind of, at least in the UK, it was kind of a lot of like hand-me-downs from whoever had a game console. So even though I was born in 1996, which is kind of, I mean, I guess it depends who you ask, is old or young. I still actually played a lot of game consoles that came out way before. So I was playing like Super Nintendo. I played the N64, which at the time I was playing, it was kind of not really a console anymore, but it was just what my cousins or friends had lying around. And my parents loathed me playing it. But I remember seeing it when I was, because you're a kid, right? And you see these animations and these graphics and there's a controller. You're like, oh my God, that looks so cool. And so I kind of begged my parents at one point to buy me a Game Boy Color. And they bought me one, but they bought me it in France. And they bought me the game in France as well. And this was back when there was no language options. So I had Pokemon, but it was all in French. And I didn't speak a word of French. But I kind of like just, as like a 8-year-old, I think I just bashed my head at it. And I somehow managed to beat the game, which I guess it isn't that complicated. But the fact that it was all in French, and I have no idea what was happening, but I was like, trial and error, it's fine. I just like seeing what happens. And I remember playing that game far too much. And that was kind of the start for me. I think after that, I was just completely hooked on video gaming, and I've never really stopped, which I don't know what this is about me or what this is about video games.
That's really interesting. This is really good to know. Okay, so tell me, so when you get older, your parents probably bought you a computer and you played online, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
At some point.
I kind of tricked them into letting me play online games. They didn't really know what it was. So I was like, no, just buy me this Wi-Fi thing, and then I'll worry about the rest. Yeah, they bought me a Nintendo Wii, and then the Wii had Wi-Fi capabilities, and I managed to figure out obviously how to set up all those games and start playing those online. And then that was kind of the end of any chance of me having a normal life, because I think the moment I realized I could be competitive and play against the people, every single console or PC after that, I immediately was like, all right, what games can I play? What can I do now? So I got really hooked into gaming that way, and then afterwards I kind of fell out of it, but I kind of got back into it as of recent. But yeah, I've just kind of my parents, bless them, they didn't really understand what any of this stuff was, but I would just kind of ask them very politely, like, okay, my birthday's coming up, could you buy me this Wi-Fi dongle? And they're like, oh, this is so bizarre. But yeah, sure.
This is all so familiar, Connor.
Yeah, yeah, I
Just
can
have
imagine.
a 15-year-old. Well, no, he just turned 16, but
Yeah.
the game. So this is extremely familiar. Um, so did you play Minecraft? That was a big game.
Um,
Or
I didn't play Minecraft. Minecraft kind
oh,
of was just kind of released around the time when I was kind of into kind of Call of Duty kind of games where I'm like,
oh,
no, I'm
Call
too
of
cool
Duty.
for
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
I'm too cool for these games now. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that was a yeah, that kind of came after me. But I played it recently, but I'm so bad at those type of games. I'm not creative in that kind of sense. I just kind of struggle with building stuff. I'm like, I'd rather just make a video or something. Why I don't want to make a house.
Okay. Um, so you got a little bit older, and
Yeah,
tell me about anime.
yeah,
Because somewhere along the line you became really interested in anime. Was that when you were still
yeah.
in high school, or
As if my parents weren't concerned enough already, I gave them the nail in the coffin. No, I basically from video gaming, like a lot of video games, obviously, as a lot of people know, um, you know, there's a huge video game scene in Japan where they made a lot of their own games, and a lot of the most iconic games, obviously, Nintendo, come from Japan. You know, and I would kind of play some of these games, and I'd really like the style. I didn't know why, and it turned out it was just they were all the Japanese games where they were all very animated, lots of really bad acting and really kind of corny. But the style really kind of stuck with me, and I didn't realize it at the time that I was just really into kind of Japanese stuff. And growing up, whenever I saw any kind of Asian media, I always thought, wow, this is so cool as well. And then around age 15, 16, I kind of just accidentally stumbled upon anime. I was trying to become like a film buff in my mind. So I was going through IMDb's list of like must watch. And there was this like Death Note show, which is a rather morbid. It's just about a book where you write someone's name, they die. And I thought, oh, that
I think
sounds,
I
you
know
might have
the
heard of
show.
it. Yeah, yeah. And I thought, well, no, I'm too old for cartoons. I don't watch cartoons anymore because my parents had really instilled in me. They're like, cartoons are for kids. Don't watch them. But the premise sounded so cool that I was like, okay, well, I'll watch like one episode. And I just got immediately hooked. And I think it was like from that point onwards, the next like 2 years, I kind of stopped anything else. And I just only just watched anime. And I kind of just fell in love with it. And that kind of started my whole journey into YouTube because I became totally infatuated with kind of just being able to talk about this. But in the UK, there's absolutely nobody who's talking about anime at the time. It was very much a kind of thing. If you were to talk about it or even bring it up, it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? What is that? What is that like? What? I don't know what that is. Um, and so I kind of wanted to make friends who also knew about it. So my genius idea to making friends was, why don't I just make YouTube videos? And if I make YouTube videos, I'm sure I'll make some friends along the way. And I guess I was kind of accurate. It just didn't pan out the way I'd thought. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of how I then transitioned anime into becoming kind of a creator.
Okay, so you made the YouTube videos to find other people online who were interested in anime.
Yeah, I was
Big,
also I also was a little bit of a excuse my language, but I was a bit of a little shit. I wanted to also do like little voice acting things and do prank calls. So I was kind of like filming that kind of stuff. And obviously now I look back, I'm like, oh God, kind of why? But um, you know, at the time I thought it was hilarious. And so I kind of mixed my enjoyment of anime. And I guess there's this whole other thing going on this whole time while I'm into anime where I got into voice acting as well, and that was a whole other thing that started everything. There's so many, I guess, parallel things happening that were a
and
mess.
there's a lot of layers. I mean, that was another question I
Yeah.
had. Actually, that's my next question. I mean,
Mm.
how did you start with voice acting? Because that's a really unusual field, and for a younger person to think, oh yeah, I can be a voice actor. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you even decide that you could do that? You have a wonderful voice.
Oh,
I
thank you.
totally could see how you'd be a voice actor. So, but how did you recognize that? Was there acting in your family? Were people in the
No,
theater or anything on the stage, or
no, not at all. My entire
okay.
family is does engineering, and I did engineering as well. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. But whilst I was kind of getting into anime, I don't know why. I think there's anime does this thing to some people. I think it really sucks you into these worlds. And I was so kind of infatuated with the idea of being able to portray one of these characters and just kind of live that kind of character's journey. again, I don't know why. I feel like it sounds like a mental disease when I'm saying it out loud. I'm like, yes, doctor, I want to be an anime character. but I kind of got really into it, and prior to that, whilst I was growing up, I was always doing these kind of funny voices, and I just want to clarify that doing funny voices is absolutely not a kind of indicator that you should do voice acting. But it was kind of a fun way of being like, I think I've got a knack for this, and so rather I don't, this sounds like a terrible idea now in hindsight, but growing up I feel like it made a lot of sense. I had this microphone that I used on Xbox when I used to play on my Xbox. I would talk to people, and I found out that you could plug it into your PC, and so I had this really terrible old laptop, and it could just about run an audio recording software. And so I started recording myself doing these like characters, and I would kind of do these auditions that I would find online, and of course I would never get anything because I had a terrible microphone and I was terrible at it. But I kind of got really into it, and I thought it was kind of fun. And then it was kind of like parallel with playing on these video games. I'd kind of practice doing these voices on these open lobbies, which I'm sure everyone loved what I was doing. Um, and I kind of just slowly got a bit better at it. And I realized, oh, I think I have a pretty good knack for narration. And so I started doing narration. And the moment I turned 18, and I was kind of I went to university, and I'd saved up a tiny bit of money. I didn't tell my parents or anything. I kind of booked this voiceover class in London, which was about a 3-hour train ride from where I was actually in university. And I just went there to go and do this class and do this workshop. And they kind of offered to let me come back again and do a more personal session, which I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then after I did another session with them, they kind of were offering me kind of like, hey, would you like to come join our roster and do some voice acting? And I was like, thank God I'd done all this silly stuff in my bedroom, because that really paid off at that point. And so that kind of led me to doing voiceover more professionally, kind of coinciding with when I roughly kind of started doing YouTube stuff as well. So it was kind of, I was improving at kind of everything at once, and I was really, really invested in it. And my university studies definitely suffered for it. But it kind of allowed me to really throw myself in creatively. And I at the time I'm sure my parents didn't feel this way, but I was near certain I could make this work. I was like, I'm good at this stuff. I know I can do this if I really like, commit myself. And I was also, I think one thing that I was glad from engineering is that I did have a very grounded view of reality. And I was like, okay, I have the spreadsheet with how much money I'm making and what I can do, and realistically how much I can throw into this. And, I'm not going to do anything stupid. I didn't acquire any debt or anything. I just kind of did what was within my means. And so that was kind of that whole kind of crazy journey that I kind of threw on you guys there.
Wow. So you're doing these two things simultaneously. You're getting your degree. Did you say chemical engineering?
Mechanical engineering.
Oh, mechanical engineering. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's intense.
I was not present much. I kind of every weekend I would take a train to London, and it would cost about, maybe like $100 for a return ticket. And I would just I had friends out there that I would kind of ask very kindly, can I sleep on their couch for the night? And they would just kind of be like, yeah, sure. I don't know what he's doing, but yeah. And so I'm just, very fortunate that kind of everything coincided. And I still got my degree, which I think was the big thing. My parents.
That was my next question.
I did, yeah. I got a pretty good grade too, which is shocking. I was terrible. The last year I basically didn't do anything.
Was the university, was it in Wales, or was it in Wales then, or London?
Yeah. So I grew up in Wales, and I speak fluent Welsh. I did all my schooling in Welsh. So when I went to university, I got offers from some better universities around England, but there was a scheme going on with the government where you would get kind of 2/3 of your scholarship, 2/3 of your university costs covered if you spoke Welsh and went to a university in Wales. So I was like, well, okay, sure, I'll do that. That sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah, I'm sure your parents thought so too.
Yeah, and I think they were happy that I was still in Wales, even though I was on the opposite end of Wales, which is, unfortunately, public transport is not Wales' strong suit. So getting from the other side is actually slower than going from further out. It's a whole mess. UK infrastructure needs an overhaul, for sure.
So you started to branch out more into YouTubing. So once you got your degree, did you get a full-time job in what you majored in, or did you just simply kind of launch off and go into YouTubing and,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
basically at the same time, I started my YouTubing and kind of my professional voice acting around the end of the first year of my university year. And in the UK, a bachelor's is only 3 years long. And so at the end of the second year, I was kind of dabbing my toes in it, kind of trying to do a video every week. And it started kind of growing, and I started getting a little bit of money from it, which kind of blew my mind. It's the first time you get $5 from something you created. You're like, whoa, this is amazing. What? I just uploaded this thing, and I got $10. This is crazy. I can go and buy my meal. And back then I was like, wow, that was life changing, because at that time it was pretty much my savings that I had from a prior job at McDonald's that I had, and a loan that I'd taken out, which is pretty common in the UK. You just take out a loan to live. It's a different loan from your student loans. And so I had that. I kind of realized, oh, if I can, my videos can get more views and I can make more videos, I think I can pay off this loan and just live off this, even though it wouldn't be a great living. It would just kind of be enough to survive. And so during the second year, I kind of started ramping it up a little bit. And the third year is where I started to get a lot of more voiceover work, but it was my final year of engineering, so it was kind of tough to balance the two. But I kind of, it's like, I'm gonna put the engineering to the side a little bit and focus more on the YouTube and the voice acting. And my parents were very understanding. They were just kind of, listen, as long as you get the degree and you pass, you can do whatever you want for a few years, as long as you don't get in trouble, and don't rack up a bunch of financial debt. So the moment I finished, I said to my parents, hey, look, I want to move to London. I want to go and do voiceover there, and I want to do YouTube there. And they were like, oh, sure. Like, we like London, so, it's not too far from Wales, because London has amazing train connections, so it's like within 2 hours. So, it's not too far. I think in America that's like, oh, a 2 hour drive, that's easy. That's
yeah. Yeah,
in the
it's
UK,
true.
that's kind of crazy. In the UK, like a 3-4 hour commute is like, whoa, that's a lot. But so I started doing it there, and it was around this time when my YouTube stuff kind of really started to kind of it was taking off, but it was taking off with me only doing these anime character voices stuff. And I really wanted to change it to kind of focus on me doing kind of more silly stuff, kind of about the focus not being the anime characters, more so focus being me and using my voice acting knowledge to kind of make some interesting content. And so the videos started doing just terribly. And I was terrified because I just started paying rent and I was kind of living off this stuff. And it was going so bad. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to ask my parents to let me move in. But I was really confident. I was like, I'm certain this is the right direction for my videos. And slowly, after a little bit of time and kind of changing it very slightly, and it kind of started taking off. And by the end of a year of doing it full time, it kind of like tripled what I was originally making. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. I kind of comfortably live now. And by the end of a year of doing it full time, it kind of like tripled what I was originally making. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. I kind of comfortably live now. And so it was kind of a snowball effect. I never really had a big kind of blow up like a lot of people get. I never really had this explosive growth. It's been a very, very gradual kind of learning things and implementing new strategies and working with people and hiring more people to work with me. And it's just been a very, very slow climb. And I was living in London for about 2 years. And that was kind of when I got the offer then to move out to Japan. So I still kind of had some anime ties, and some of the anime companies wanted to kind of work with me in some kind of promotional sense. And I got the offer to move to Japan. And then I took that, and then that kind of that changed everything. That's when it really blew up for me. And it kind of the gradual incline of viewership, kind of just the graph went from like this to kind of like this, and it was like, oh whoa, okay. The kind of content I was making drastically changed, and then I started a podcast with my friends, which became very popular.
Is that the trash talk one?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I've seen it.
that was
Yeah.
kind of a shock to everyone. I think ours and pretty much everyone on YouTube, because it just kind of, a podcast had never kind of there was, at the time, there was no podcast that were getting that kind of viewership on YouTube, because it was such a long format. It's 2 hours long. And the fact that it was getting as many views as like normal YouTube videos was kind of unheard of. So that changed everything, and that kind of sent my whole trajectory in this very strange direction. And then I started live streaming, and then that's where we are kind of now, I suppose.
What year did you move to Japan? 2021?
I moved to Japan in 2019. It
Oh,
was
2019. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I moved
Okay.
right before COVID happened,
Okay.
and I was kind of stuck here. Which
How
And
is a
you're
did
good
still
thing.
stuck there.
Yeah,
And you're not
yeah.
2 hours away from your parents. They're probably like,
I'm
is he ever
sadly I'm a
coming home?
20-hour flight away.
how
But
did
you know, yeah, it was a strange time being kind
Yeah.
of trapped in a foreign country for 2 years that you don't speak the language.
how did living in Japan during COVID, how did that affect your content creation and your just your the energy that you put into it? Was it more draining? Was it, you know,
It was
what was the effect on you?
Yeah, it was creatively it was kind of hard because I had kind of shifted a lot of my focus to covering more Japanese kind of weird cultural spots, kind of trying to cover these places with kind of a new lens of kind of working in these places and kind of showing off what it would be like to start working in like just these bizarre places. Like I did like a strip club or a butler cafe, or it's kind of any kind of range of strange job people might find interesting. And COVID, yeah, it kind of Japan really was took COVID extremely seriously. And so everything was closed, and no one wanted to film anything, and it was very understandable as well because you know people also weren't interested in catering to foreign tourists at the time because there was no foreign tourists. Um, but in terms of the YouTube side, and I mean, COVID kind of anyone who was already making content before COVID probably saw a massive increase when COVID happened because um, people were just watching YouTube a lot more. There was a lot of people who got into watching YouTube and watching live streaming, and kind of a few months into COVID, Japan started to ease up a little bit with filming. You know, they kind of understood that okay, we can film stuff, we just got to be careful. So it was kind of this really very fortunate circumstance where no one could enter Japan, and we kind of had me and a few other creators kind of had kind of exclusive access to film everything in Japan, and a lot of people who were like, oh, I miss Japan, I want to go and have a look what's happening, and people kind of had to watch our videos, and so it kind of just again it kind of multiplied everything that was already happening, and it made this kind of, I mean, it was kind of. For content creators, COVID was kind of fantastic, but for everyone else, it was miserable. I mean, it really did kind of increase everybody's numbers across the board, which was kind of weird to say and feels very odd to benefit of kind of a global pandemic. But it really allowed us to sink into it more, and I didn't really find myself getting burnt out. It was kind of more, I was more able to dedicate myself to it in a weird way.
And you talk about streaming like
Hmm.
a little older. Tell me what you're streaming now. I mean, tell me for our listeners that aren't too
Hmm.
familiar with streaming.
So
Tell me a little bit about streaming.
yeah, streaming is was traditionally only really people playing video games, and now you're probably thinking that sounds so boring. Anybody who's not into video games, um, but you know, a lot of people just kind of want to put something on and want to watch something, and a lot of people kind of engage with seeing somebody they really like play a game they really like. And for a long time, that was kind of all that streaming was, and it was only very recently where people had kind of come into it with this rejuvenated kind of view on it. Uh, and nowadays, people are doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I myself do a lot of outdoor streaming. So I'll have a backpack with a bunch of internet modems and a bunch of batteries, and I'll stream a camera that is pretty good quality, and we'll go and do some fun stuff. And you know, there's good and bad ways to do it. I recently did one where we hired an RV and we hired out a bunch of places to go and stream live, where we'd break tiles and we would go and sand surf, and what else did we do? We played airsoft, all live on stream. And you know, that stuff's a lot more kind of, for me, is a lot more interesting. But there's also some other stuff like I guess I do some streams where people can send me little clips, and if they make me laugh, I'll give them a little bit of money, and kind of like a challenge. Like, if you can make me laugh, I'll give you money. But the thing is, I'm British and I don't laugh. I'm miserable. I also do. Let me actually pull my stuff up because I've done so much stuff. Recently, sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, send me a picture." I'll make an internet form where people can send me their bedrooms, like pictures, and I'll rate them. I'll be like, "This is a terrible room. You need to clean this up," or "This is good." This all, some people have like really intense obsessions. They'll have a ton of anime figures, and I'll be like, "Okay, let's go through these." Other things that I started doing recently, I just opened up like presentations where people can make a presentation about anything and present it to me, and we'll just go through them. People can watch online. I also recently did a game jam where I challenged people to make video games in 3 days, and the top 5 I would give $1,000 each to. Just really doing some really like creative stuff and getting people involved, and kind of trying to change streaming from being just about video games to kind of being about a live medium where we can kind of make some fun ideas and test out some really cool concepts and see what works and see what really engages people. And so I'm always trying very strange ideas and seeing what works. And obviously, as the IDF knows, I also did a bunch of cycling live, which sounds incredibly boring. At least I thought it was, until I kind of I work with a lot of programmers. I hire 2 programmers full time. Who that whole job is just to I'm like, think of weird stuff that we can use to make live formats more engaging. I have a Nerf gun that can shoot me, depending on what chat controls people watching. My lights can be controlled by my viewers. Just a bunch of really bizarre things that we're like, can we make this? Yeah, let's try and make it. And so, for example, with the cycling, I thought, how do you make something like cycling engaging for people? Because it's such a, if I'm just cycling for 8 hours a day, there's nothing really to engage people there. And we kind of workshop this idea of, okay, let's make like a kind of a video game, like heads up display, like a bunch of information on the screen that kind of conveys to you what's happening, and you could jump in at any time and you can understand. So we came up with this idea of having a a live tracker that would show you exactly where I am and where I'd been with a blue line, and it would tell you the progress of that day and would tell you how fast I'm going, how many more kilometers we have. And then we also programmed a Fitbit to work so it would show you the live heart rate and how many calories I'd burned. So it's really like a video game. You're kind of just watching me just cycle, and you're getting in real-time stats being conveyed live to a broadcast. And so that was how we figured out, okay, this is how you make a really engaging storyline here. And then we also added on the charity element where we're doing this for charity, and kind of, you can kind of take these really mundane concepts of doing something really boring. Suddenly you can start introducing these kind of ideas or programs that really allow you to flesh out an idea and make it so much more, and allow it to kind of make it an entertaining concept. I'm so sorry for ranting. I will let you.
No, it's really fascinating, Connor. Really, for me, I'm just trying to. You really can't even categorize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not really
bizarre.
reality television, because that's all scripted anyway. And this really is just sort of like interactive television. It sounds to me,
almost, yeah.
because your viewers can communicate with you and even control some of your environment. It sounds like. When you're streaming, it's really fascinating.
How dare you tell us about the interesting things
sorry,
you're doing after we've invited you onto our podcast?
I rant a lot. I'm sorry. I get carried away.
It's almost time for the 2023 Primary Immunodeficiency Conference. Whether you are recently diagnosed, interested in more in-depth medical topics related to your diagnosis, or want to learn more about the rarest diagnoses, this conference is for you. Our keynote speakers will share their journeys with primary immunodeficiency, and world-class immunologists will share the latest research on topics related to PI. Plus, you'll have a chance to network with exhibitors and other members of the PI community. Visit primaryimmune.org/conference to register.
Okay, so because your efforts to raise funds for IDF, which we are greatly appreciative for, really occurred because you met Iron Mouse. I don't know her real name. I would just call her Iron Mouse. And she's your friend. And, you know, you learn, tell me a little bit about how you met her. Was it, I guess it was just virtually, or have you ever met her in real life?
No,
tell me
I've never
about
met
your
her in real life.
friendship.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
I met Iron Mouse. Oh my God, went back maybe like 2021 or 2020. I'm not exactly sure on the date. And but I just seen her stuff around because she was kind of quite prominent. I thought that she was very interesting, so I was like, oh, we should do a stream sometime together. And so we played some games, and it was very fun. And I got to speak to her a little bit more outside of the streaming, and I just thought that she was a really like interesting and unique person. And then she told me more about her disease, because at the time I was like, oh, you should, like, Japan's awesome, you should go and check it out. And then, you know, obviously I found out she can't come and check it out, unfortunately. You know, and to me, I'd never heard of CVID at that time. You know, I'm sure it's the same in the US as well, but I'm again from Wales, in the very countryside. Everyone's very outdoorsy, and they were like, what? No, the illness is it doesn't exist. You just have to be more active and eat healthy. It's that's very much the kind of mindset that I grew up in. And so I'd never heard of this at all. And obviously, through talking to Mouse, I'd kind of learned more about it. And as a creator who'd been doing this for a very long time, you know, at the time I knew Mouse, I'd been working online like full time, like 6-7 years, and Mouse had just kind of started. And at the time, I really felt like, oh, I could, you know, I'd love to kind of, you know, kind of impose myself. Like, if you need any help with anything, you want any advice, I've been doing this for a very long time. I can give some any knowledge or any insight on any topics. And so we kind of just spoke a lot about it, and we just kind of started collaborating a lot more on stream, and it kind of became a weekly thing. And she's helped me out a lot with my streaming stuff, and it's been a great assistance, and I've helped her out a lot. And it just kind of became a very good team, where it's always nice to have somebody who you can just kind of rely on, who's just always reliable and always delivers. And so having that kind of, that we were great friends, but also we work really well together professionally. We just kind of became very close. And then, you know, the moment that any kind of charity event came up, I was like, well, I really want to help this organization that a lot of people didn't know about, and a lot of people didn't even know about the disease. So I was like, okay, this seems like a good cause, because I, you know, not to slight any charities or really rude, but I often find that a lot of people, when they do things with charity, it's very generic, and they're like, I just heard of this charity, it sounds like a good idea, let's just do it. But I really wanted to be engaged with the charity and the message and the story, to get people involved as well. I find that having a story really gets people involved in the charity, and so it kind of really just made sense, and the stars kind of aligned.
What was your first exposure to really the potential, the mind-boggling, like, philanthropic efforts that streamers and content creators are capable of? What was the first thing that made you say, wow, that's something that I can do with this?
Yeah, I'd always seen other creators like Yogscast would do a big charity event every year, and Jacksepticeye would always do a Thanksmas, who'd raise, you know, $20 million, crazy numbers. And obviously, I can't raise those amounts, but I figured I could try and raise a good amount, and I have this large platform, and you know, I feel like I'm in a very fortunate position where I've been able to live very comfortably off what I do. And it just felt that even if I wouldn't raise a crazy amount, I feel like as a somebody in such a privileged position, I should at least use my platform occasionally to raise money for these kind of events and these kind of causes. And so that just felt very natural to do.
How have the efforts of, like, content creation and then creating these gigantic charity events, how have those intersected at all? Have you learned have you learned things from one that you never thought you would have learned from the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you gain a lot more than you realize from doing a philanthropic event. I feel like as a content creator and as a person, you grow so much more being able to do these kind of events and being able to give back, as opposed to always, you know, doing events that are all about yourself. I found that it was just very rewarding, mentally, and being able to help people and being able to give people a reason to get involved in something. I found that really impactful and more beneficial to me than in any other kind of event where I would personally benefit. And it really engaged with me.
So, Connor, I want to make sure that I have all of the fundraising that you've done for IDF correct. I did a lot of research, so I just want to make sure that I was a reporter in my other life, so that's
fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, so you had a cyclothon 1 for IDF, right? That was in 2022, August and September, and I think you raised 350,000.
I think it was 320,000, but yeah, it was around that.
Okay, and then cyclothon 2. That was just recently. That was in March.
Yep. 2 months ago. Well, my God, that's crazy.
You raised over $500,000, which is
incredible.
That's just it blows my mind, honestly.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I see that she was live streaming on Twitch for 8 hours a day for 9 days straight. Is that right?
Yeah, I was cycling pretty much like a full-time job cycling for like a week and a half. Through rain and other horrible conditions. But it was very fun. I won't lie, I do enjoy it, and I love being physical. I love doing physical activities, and I really like conveying that to people as well. To if possible, please exercise. Don't play video games all day.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is it gives you an opportunity to actually get out of
exactly
a little bit and like enjoy the outdoors, which your parents will be happy about that. So.
Oh, they love it. Yeah, they love those streams.
And then in May 2023, did you do an auction?
I did. Yeah, I did an auction in 2022. I think May it might have been.
Oh, was it May 2022? Okay, because I was like, that doesn't seem right to me, because it seemed like that would just been like last month or something. Okay, I just want to make sure I had that right, and I have like over $55,000 you raised. Okay. Yeah,
that was a quick little, I think 4 or 5 hour stream where I just sold stuff off, and people got really engaged with it.
I watched bits and pieces of it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
I did. It was a very small room.
That's this room. Yeah, I just one day I was like, right, we're gonna auction off this stuff because I don't want any more. People buy it, please.
And they did.
And they did. I think people got really engaged.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual auction a little bit. There's a lot of information on the website already. Tell me what role you'll play in the auction. Are you going to be the auctioneer for 4 hours, or are you going to have some of your guest streamers step in and
basically kind of be the main auctioneer, main host, kind of the one who's keeping the flow of the show, calling when the item auctions are done, introducing all the guests. So the guests will come on and introduce their items, maybe banter a little bit, and they'll watch their items go up, and they'll try and hype people up. But yeah, mainly my role is the auctioneer, the host, kind of making sure this whole thing goes well and is entertaining, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Tell me just a few of the items that you're going to be contributing that you think people might be super interested in.
We have a handmade painting from PewDiePie, who's one of the biggest YouTubers ever. Over 100 million subscribers, and he made his first ever handmade painting that we're going to auction off, which I think people are going to be very excited for. And we also, what else are we giving away? I'm giving away a bunch of my own anime stuff. I'm also going to give people the opportunity to be in one of my videos as well. A friend of mine Iron Mouse is giving a chance to hang out with her for an hour. Another chess streamer who's a very, very strong chess player is giving away a chess lesson. We have a legal YouTuber who's giving away a gavel. There's just a bunch of varied items. Some people are giving away a t-shirt, just a white t-shirt. We have somebody giving away a copy of FIFA 17. Just various random items. It's completely random. We have some really crazy valuable things and some really dumb items, but it should make for a really fun show that people, some items will do really well, some will do really funny, maybe not so well. We'll see.
What platform is the FIFA 17
It's like an Xbox 360, I think. It's like it's not even remotely useful. I don't know what he's giving. I don't know why he's giving it away, but it'll be funny.
So that comes with like a fire hazard as well.
I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You get a red ring of death Xbox as well. I don't know.
Okay, and I have the list of the people who will be attending the other streamer. I don't really.
There's
It's
a
on
lot.
the
Yeah,
website. You know
it's
who
okay.
they
You
are,
don't have
but
to know them. Don't worry.
I don't know. I Did a Thing is my favorite name. That's pretty interesting.
His channel's fantastic.
And so they'll be there. And what about now? Will Iron Mouse be there in some virtual form?
iMouse will be there virtually on an iPad.
Okay.
We'll be able to interact a little bit, so it should be pretty fun. But we'll have some messages from iMouse as well and videos. So very excited for that.
Okay. And do you have any kind of goal, or is it just as far as the amount you want to raise, or is it just however much we raise, we raise?
I'd love to, and I know it's just so ambitious, but I'd love to raise $500,000 again. Just so that I can say this year I've raised $1 million for charity and the IDF, of course. It's been my goal this year to raise $1 million for charity in general. So if I can get it done in June, I'd be very happy with that. So that's my goal. So if we can do that, that'd be great.
Okay. What would you say to people to encourage them to participate in the auction?
Yeah, I mean, just watching along and not even getting involved at all helps a lot. Just being a viewer and just getting excited about the items. There's so many cool individuals and items that are coming on, and I think, again, people always are like, oh, I wish I could donate. It's like, no, don't worry about that. Just being a part of the event and watching helps kind of spread the event around and gets more people involved, and maybe some people who are more financially able to give a lot of money or give anything. So just watching and being there helps so much.
Exactly. And also, I mean, it helps spread awareness of what, primary immunodeficiency is.
Exactly.
It's certainly nothing I'd ever heard of 4 years ago when I started working for IDF. And I've learned a heck of a lot. So people will learn, more about this condition, which is rare, but maybe not as rare as some people think.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't asked you about?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Thank
you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Connor. Thank you for your time.
Oh, no, thank you.
I have two more questions, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I just wanted to ask, so streamers are super notorious for, the grind, sometimes a little bit too much to a fault.
Yeah.
But it seems like you found a really healthy work-life balance, and particularly for our community, people with PI, they have to find that. They have to figure out how many spoons they have available for any given day. So, like I said, it seems like you found a really healthy work-life balance. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's always very important to at least, give yourself at least maybe one day where you just kind of give something to yourself. Take it easy, go for a walk, be active, or whatever you can do, whatever you can do within your means, to kind of just change your outlook on whatever it is you're doing. It's very easy to get lost in your work or even a hobby. It's just very important, I think, to just stop what you're doing every now and then and just get a different perspective. I also make sure there's always something I'm looking forward to. There always needs to be something that you're like, you feel you're working towards. If you're working hard on something else, you're like, well, at least I have that hangout with a friend, or I'm going to be playing games later in the day. Even when I was studying, it was always like I would study in the morning, and then I would look forward to playing video games in the evening. And that was always kind of how I managed to do it. It's just always about having something to get excited about, making sure you give yourself a break, and managing your time appropriately. I think that it's very easy sometimes to procrastinate for an hour here and there, but I try to make sure that when I'm working, it's good work. And then when I'm not working, I can really enjoy it. And I find that if I focus on making sure when I am working that it's quality work, that I can get a lot more done in less time, because I'm more willing to, because I know there's something to look forward to. And so I'm always trying to balance that. But occasionally I do weeks where I do crazy amounts of work, and weeks where I don't do so much. It really does depend. I'm very fortunate that I can pick my schedule.
Yeah, there's some weeks where you bicycle 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's fun though. I like that. That's like I get to get outside. I get to do something cool. I get to be a part of something, and I love exercise. I will find any excuse to make exercise work. I absolutely love it.
Is that how you turn it off? Like at the end of the
Yep.
day or when you finish, that's how you cut it off?
Yep. I love rock climbing. I love running. I love cycling. Pretty much anything that gets my heart rate high, I'm excited about. It really helps me decompress and helps me kind of be like, okay, all right, okay, I can reset a little bit. I feel like my body is healthy, which is a big thing. Trying my best to remain healthy when possible.